Well, hello and welcome back to tutorial 71. If you've not seen the first part of this tutorial, might be a good idea to do that. What we've done so far is created a channel based on the highest high and the lowest low of a certain user input period. And if we break out of that channel, we're then managing the trades. We've set up a target and we've set up a stop. But what we're going to do now is implement a trailing stop in addition to those other things. So let's go to the program, and this is the program so far, and we're going to do a trailing stop. So I'm just going to put some comments in here as usual, and that should be // and the way that the trailing stop is going to work is we're going to expect after an entry for price to move a certain way in the direction we want it to go, and when it reaches a certain let's call it kick-in point, then we'll start trailing. So the first thing we need to do is establish if indeed it has hit that level. So we're going to do that by saying if market position is equal to 1, in other words we're in a long position, and close is greater or equal to entry price, and you remember entry price is the price we entered this particular trade, and we need to exceed that by, I'm going to create a user input and I'm going to call it trail kick in, and that is going to be a multiple of the minimum move of the particular chart. So we're not using an ATR for this, we're just using the min move over price scale. Okay, and if that is true, then we're going to set a conditional variable start trail, or rather, yeah, start L trail equals true, and we're going to do the same thing or very similar thing for short trades. So I'm just going to copy this to save a little bit of time, and except now we're going to be saying we're in a short position, and C this time has got to be less than or equal to the entry price minus the trail kick in times minimum move, and then we're going to start and say strat S trail equals true. Now that's all well and good, but what you will find is that at some point in the program these conditional variables strat L TRL and strat S TRL will be set to true, and then they'll stay true for the rest of the program. That's not what we want. So what we need to do is reset these when we're not in a trade, and we can do that in the same place that we previously did some resetting. So what I'm going to do now is just convert this from a then to a begin end statement, and I'm going to put in this value. So what I'm saying is every time we're not in a long position we can reset this thing to false, and we're going to do something very similar for the short position. So I'm going to put in begin and end, and except in this case the conditional variable, let's just remind ourselves what it's called, is strat S TRL. Okay, so let's just put that in there. Okay, so just to reiterate, what we're doing is we're saying if, for example, in the case of being long, that the price exceeds entry price plus a trail kick-in value, then we're going to set trail L, or rather stat L TRL to true. If we're no longer in a long position, then that becomes false. The other thing that we need to do is create an input for this here. So let's just do that. And we'll just call that, say, 5 or maybe 4. Okay, so that's the first part. Now we know when we're going to start trailing, but we have to work out what the trailing value is. So this is how we do that. We say if, I'm just going to copy it, strat L TRL, then if C minus trail amount, and this is another input that we need to create in a moment, times by min move divided by price scale is greater than TRL L, then we're just going to copy this again, and just misspelled scale there, and here of course. Then C minus trail amount times min move, or rather I should say then trail L equals that value. Okay, so what we're saying is if we've started trailing, and if C minus this calculated trail amount is greater than trail L, then trail L is equal to this new amount. Okay, and then we're going to do something very similar for the strat for the short side. So let me just do that, and I'm just going to change it from the long side and make it appropriate. So this time we're going to add this value to C, and we're going to say if that is less than trail S, and trail S equals C plus that amount there. Now I think we set up the, well, we need to also set up trail amounts, because this again is a user input, and I think we need to set up TRL L and TRL S as well. So let's just go ahead and do that. Call this 5 and set up the trials. Incidentally, the program available for download, I'm including some comments in this so that you'll see what the things actually mean, and I'm going to change that to a large number, just like we've done before. And also I think what I've omitted to do is I also need to do the set up these conditional variables that we've used here, and strat L trail. So I don't think I've set those up. Let's just double check. No, apparently not. So let's just put those in as well. I'm going to set them as false. And the only difference is that's an S. Make that false. Okay, and I think we're good. So I'm just going to press F3 and see if we get any errors. Okay, so it looks like we've got the trailing values in there, but of course we're not actually exiting the trade. So we've got a couple more things that we need to do. Firstly, we want to see what those trailing values look like. So we can do that just using the draw lines functionality again. And I'm just going to say if draw lines, then begin. And we're going to use, say if MP equals 1, then I'm just going to use pre-declared variables in this case because we're not going to do anything with these particular value. We're not going to change their color or anything. And as I say, I think it would make a lot of sense if you turn these things off once you start using the program, because they do take up a lot of processing power. In essence, what we're doing, even though these lines often look like they're continuous lines, they're actually lots of tiny little segments of lines. So we're actually drawing, I hate to think how many lines. Okay, so that's for the long side. The short side, if MP equals -1, then I'm just going to copy this. And we can change it. I just noticed a small error there. It should be trail L, and then this should be trail S and trail S, and just going to end that statement. So we haven't put in the trades yet, but let's just go ahead and verify this, and we'll just see if we're getting any trails on the chart. Okay. Okay, and there's just one thing that I've forgotten to do here. I don't only need to reset the strat L trail, but I also need to set these trailing values, trail L and trail S. So let's again go back to the place where we reset values, and we're saying if we're not in a long position, then we need to reset our trail L as 0, and if we're not in a short position, then we need to reset our trail S as a large number, like so. Okay, so I'm going to verify that again, and then just look at the chart. Okay, so we can see some cyan lines now, and these are the trailing stops. So you can see here the green is the stop, and that is superseded by the trailing stop in this particular case. And those trails look maybe a little close for comfort, so we'd probably want to open those up a little bit. And we would do that incidentally by going into the strategies and just clicking on the strategy we're working on and changing the values here. So we could say we could have it kick in after 5 and trail by say 10, and in that way widen the trails somewhat. Anyway, what we've not done, we still haven't made any trail exits. So we've got a notional trail there, but we're not actually exiting the trades if we hit that value. Okay, so let's put in the trailing exits. We're going to say if MP equals 1, then cell, we'll give it a name, TRL L, next bar at TRLL, stop. And similarly on the short side, if MP equals -1, then buy to cover, it's going to be trail S, next bar at trail S, stop. So I'm going to verify and look at the charts and see if we've got any trailing stop exits, and it looks like we've got one right here. Now that is the program. As I say, it is available for download if you don't want to have to type it in. And also one thing I did notice different from the initial screen that I showed you in part 1 of this tutorial is you see these the stops, the line comes down from the top of the chart in terms of the stops for short trades, and comes up from the bottom of the chart in terms of stops for long trades. The reason that that is different is because in this version of the program, what the way that I plotted that is I plotted to stop S 1 bar back, and in the original program I didn't do it 1 bar back. It shouldn't really make any difference to the functionality of the program, and actually I've changed the downloadable to include this way of doing it. Anyway, I hope you find that tutorial of use.